Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast of the RepPath Leadership Series. Today we have a very special guest, guys. I'm really excited to introduce this next individual. Before I introduce him though, as always guys, some quick housekeeping. Please make sure any questions that you have to submit from now on throughout the chat, and our podcast producer, James, will take care of that. We'll address them about halfway through the show. So please, any questions, guys, from this moment on, please make sure you're entering them in. And for anyone that is looking for the recording of this podcast, please make sure, as always, you go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching, where you're able to get not only this podcast, but all previous podcasts and any other content. We're also live today on, We're also live today on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And we're on every podcast platform, out there. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And today's topic, we're going to talk about networking like a pro in medical sales. And for me, there's no one better to be on the show than our guest, Kendy Elmore, who's the founder of The Lobby, which, Kendy, thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, for a lot of you guys that don't know what The Lobby is, we're going to talk a lot about that during the show. So Kendy can give us more insight. But Kendy, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, give us a little bit about your background, and so everyone has a better understanding of where you came from.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Again, thanks for having me. Honored to be on the show and excited to kind of dive into the networking conversation. So for me, spent about a decade in medical sales, started as associate rep in the capital world, moved over into orthopedics, doing foot and ankle, total shoulder, total joints, upper extremity sports med, before pivoting out in 2022 to pursue The Lobby full time. So about 15 years in the medical sales industry now.
And what inspired you to start The Lobby?
Yeah, great question. For me, as a rep throughout my career and at all stages, whether it was that time, trying to get into the industry, being early entry level rep, all the way up to, a tenured kind of seasoned rep, if you would, what I thought was missing was, for lack of a better term, an association, right? I had friends in real estate, I had friends that are attorneys, I had friends in different professions, and each of those professions each had an association that they belonged to. And I would watch my friends go to these conferences, go to networking events, happy hours, and it always thought like, here we are, this extremely social driven profession, but there's nothing to kind of bring us together for professional development, for networking, for speakers, for conferences, for just resources. And so really that was our mission. Let's build a company that unites the healthcare sales industry together, brings sales reps together, aspiring reps, executive leaders, and puts everybody in the same room. And it's been amazing to see just all the special things that come out of that room when you start to put people together.
And that really is so true, because before The Lobby, I had buddies that they're in either, say on the finance side or the real estate side. There's a lot of stuff, because I grew up in New Jersey. So there's a lot of stuff going on in New York City when it came to networking. Yeah. And they would always invite me, like, you should come to this professional network. And I would go to these things, but there was never anyone in medical there.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Once in a blue moon, you got a doctor that, to be honest, he was going there just to get some free drinks and a free meal, but there was no other sales reps there. So for me, The Lobby was awesome. When I first started seeing the promotion for this and you launching it, it was great, because it's the first time I actually saw a platform for medical sales reps.
Yeah. And I used to do the same. You're right. You go to like the Young Professionals Association or, business professionals events. And yes, it's great to network with people outside of your industry, but at the end of the day, it's nice to kind of feel like you're at home, right? I'm around other people that get it. It's tough to go talk to a finance guy about being in surgery and doing a knee replacement. They're like, wait, you're in the OR? I don't get it. I don't understand. Right. So it's nice to be around a room or be in a room full of people that get what you do, that understand what you do. And you just kind of feel like you're at home, right? When you're with The Lobby and at our events.
Yeah. And how did going back to when you were a rep, how did your own personal your networking personally shape your success in medical sales?
Yeah, I was a big believer in building my network in a couple different ways. And reps take different approaches to this. You definitely have some reps that are more guarded and really want to protect their business, protect their industry, don't give away any secrets, and really keep things close to the chest. I can even think about being in the OR, right? Some surgeons would have multiple reps in the OR, and there were certainly some that I knew the names of their kids, and I would catch up with them, and we would talk shop and we'd talk personal. And then there was always the rep that stood in the corner by himself that didn't want to talk to anybody and share anything. So for me, it's just the way I approach business, right? And this way I approach people in my life is, asking questions, being curious, getting to know people, which naturally is going to build your network, right? But I think in this industry, you also have to be intentional about it as well, and really seek out people. Whether that's mentors, mentees. I believe in having people on both sides of the equation, somebody that's kind of pulling you forward and somebody that's guiding you and helping you grow, as well as helping somebody behind you get to that next step. But I think just building your network not only leads to career opportunities. I look back at my career and I worked for 3 different companies. And after I got that first job as an associate, the next 2 job moves I had were because of my network, right? They came to me and said, "Hey, we're interested in talking to you about an opportunity. We'd love to sit down." And so it was because of my networking. It was because of the relationships I built. And also as a rep, I wanted to help my physicians build a network as well. And I think that's a strategy you've got to incorporate is it's not just on the personal side, but also on the business side. And, I would help my physicians. We would do a dinner, once a quarter, bring physicians together and network, and they would build their network and they would share case studies and things like that. But it's just such an important piece of, whether you're trying to get into this industry, you're building your business, or, an industry executive. It's a skill set you've got to build throughout your career to be successful.
Yeah, and we keep talking. Obviously the topic is network, and you're saying network. For a lot of these younger reps, and even for more experienced ones, there's a difference between collecting cards and collecting contacts where it feels good. You leave. I remember back in the day at trade shows where you would collect either physicians' cards or other reps are at an event. But it's not. To me, network is more about the community.
Yeah.
So if you could touch on that a little bit on how this isn't about just, again, collecting cards. Collecting cards, that doesn't really do anything. But the difference when you're talking about network and how it relates more to community.
Yeah. I think, the difference there for me is you collect a business card, you go home and you put it on your desk and it sits there for the next year, right? Yeah. You didn't build your network. You collected a card. I guess you have somebody you could call if you had to, or, but I think for us, when you look at building community, it's building genuine connections, right? You're actually in front of people. You're building those connections. You're getting to know each other. And then there's follow-up. We always tell people, hey, we're going to put you in a room together and we're going to get together once a quarter. But what's great is when I see pictures of people getting together after the event, or hearing how reps work together to get into an account, or a rep led to a career opportunity, whatever it may be. So it's that follow-up. It's not just a one and done, oh, I went to a networking event and I built my network. Well, not necessarily, right? Unless you're following up and engaging with these people, like I talked about, maybe finding a mentor, maybe finding a mentee, maybe finding a rep that you're going to work with. But it's that kind of continued relationship building, right? And that's what you want to do, is build relationships with these people, and not just meet them one time and never see them again.
So what would be your advice to some of these younger reps that are, they're, just to paint a picture, I'm a young rep trying to break into this industry. I've been sending resumes out to hundreds of different companies, not getting anywhere. I got 1 or 2 interviews randomly, but I'm basically getting ghosted all the time.
Yeah.
What would be like your first step for that young rep out there?
Yeah, when it comes to, so I'd go back to start building your network, right? I think back to where I was at that stage in my career. I would think of anybody in the industry, or even like a secondary friend that I could get to that's in the industry. And I started building that network, and I made a list of those people, and also asked them, when I got done talking to them, who's somebody that you think you could introduce me to that could help me on this path? I'd say the biggest mistake I see those individuals make at our events, or as they come in just guns blazing, like almost like expecting to get a job, right? They're like, oh, I'm showing up to a networking event. I'm trying to get in this industry. I'm going to leave here with a job. Like, it's just not going to happen, right? And even more so, those people will show up. And I think one of the biggest mistakes they make when they think networking and it's, they want to talk about themselves, right? It's, they meet somebody, they find somebody that's in the industry, and it's like, great, I'm going to sell them in the next 30 seconds on me and why I'm trying to get in the industry. But they leave there, having talked about themselves for an hour, right? Or 2 hours. And I think one of the biggest, lessons I try and teach these younger people is not only as a sales rep, but also, when you're networking, one of the biggest skill sets I think you can develop is learning to ask good questions, right? Getting to know people, be curious. So at the beginning of a lot of our events, I'll remind people that, like, get to know people here. This isn't about you. You should leave here like having uncovered like what it is that rep likes about that company. What is it about that industry or whatever it may be, but be curious, ask them questions, not just show up and talk about yourself.
That is a really great point, because when we teach a lot of the reps that are just breaking in, when they're getting into the industry, one of the mistakes they make when they get in front of physicians, they were in training for 3 weeks. Now they're all excited to get out there and talk about their product.
Yeah.
And they just want to spit out features and benefits. And they leave there, the doctor is sitting there like, what the hell just happened? They learn nothing about the physician and his key drivers, so they can really sell, much more effectively. So if you could touch on that, like how that is a correlation between what you're going to see in the field, same as in these events.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, it's a skill set that you can start to develop, early in your career when you're networking, and it's only going to make you a better sales rep. I think it's one of the biggest, when people ask me like one piece of advice as a sales rep, this is it, right? This is going to moving from a sales rep, right? The what do you call it? The show up and throw up, like just dumping all of the stuff you learned at sales training on a physician, to learning to ask questions, right? When you change that conversation to, Dr. Jones, tell me about your challenges today. Tell me about, what you're experiencing here. And you start to uncover what their needs are. Then ideally you have a solution for those needs, but you really change that relationship from a sales rep to more of a consultant. And then you move into like a partner, right? And when you become a partner with your customers, that's a much different relationship to, than a customer rep relationship. When they really start to see you as a true partner that cares about their needs, cares about their challenges, and then goes out and helps them solve them.
But I mean, it's such a good point too, because let's be real. Who wants to call someone back if you just went to a networking event and I talked your ear off about myself and it was me, you're smiling, you're another sales rep, you're going to be a nice guy. Odds are, do you really want to help me out later on? Because it was all about me, and I don't think a lot of reps mean to do that. I think they feel that this is my chance. I got to tell them everything about myself right now. But it does, when they do get ghosted, it is something to think about. Like, I went to this event and no one called me back or no one's reached out to me. To me, that's one of the key things to take from this.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's going back to that, be curious, right? And actually learn something while you're there, right? If you leave that event and you didn't learn anything, like, what was the point? You just kind of showed up and told everybody about yourself and went home. Like, you shouldn't feel great about that, right? You should leave there with a couple contacts that are genuine contacts, right? There are people that, like, man, I know I can follow up with this person, right? I learned a little bit about them. They gave me a lot of great content, and that person's going to want to help them because they're like, man, here's a person who's curious. They're asking questions about me. They're curious about the industry. This is somebody I want to help, to your point. And likely you're going to get a better chance of following up with that person and get more time with them.
Yeah. And again, the likability thing is real in medical sales, as we know. Doctors, I mean, I don't want to shock you guys out there. A lot of times there's a lot of Me Too products, which are okay. That's a good place to be, because doctors can use you because of you, and if they like you, you got a great product. There's a lot of great products out there. They want to work with the people that they like. I mean, it just happens, because especially when you got Me Too products. So it is a lesson, for me, at least, it taught me that, in the future. But I did have a question, because you brought up a good point. What are some of the questions that you could give to some of these reps that are going into a networking event? And it's like, all right, if I'm not going to talk about myself, what should I be asking these other reps to get some valuable information? If there's anything, I know it depends. The conversation changes. It's not robotic. But if there's any questions that you think they should be going in there asking when they're at some of these events.
Yeah, I think it's kind of goes back to getting to know that person, their experience. It could be their experience transition in the industry, right? Tell me about your challenges you face transition in the industry, or it could be about their current role as a sales rep. I think one of the challenges we all face when we're at that stage in our career was we really don't even know what we don't know, right? But, I think about when I was trying to get in the industry, like you try and do some research, a couple of the name of the big box companies, but there's hundreds of companies out there, right? So especially at that stage of your career, and I still learn about them every day, 15 years in, is be curious and get to know those roles, get to know what a day in the life is like for them, get to know about their specialty. If they're in pharma, dental, med device, surgical, what's it like spending time in the OR? What were the challenges? What advice would you have for someone who's interested in that field? Those types of things. So I think just kind of whatever you can pull out of them and learn from their experience, I think is going to be super helpful as you try to transition into the industry.
And if you are transitioning from another industry, is there anything that you would say is different from networking in medical sales versus other industries that or there could be nothing different, but do you see any differences if, say I came from finance.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to break in.
Yeah.
Do you see any differences networking wise?
No, I think the core of it is getting to know people, right? It's being curious and truly getting to know somebody. It's the same thing if you're dating or networking or calling on a customer, right? It's truly learning to ask good questions and be genuine about it, right? Not going there like, I'm just going to ask these questions, but genuinely get to know somebody and learn about their experience, learn about their challenges they faced, and try and learn something.
And do you have any success stories that you could share? Obviously, you don't have to mention reps' names, but that you've seen work really well, that you heard a rep contacted you and said, hey, Kendy, I want to thank you again because of X, Y, and Z. Any like best practices?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we're 3 years into the lobby now. We've got networking events going on in over 30 cities across the country. We've built a community over 100,000 reps and aspiring reps. And so, that's the people ask me what I'm most proud of. And that's it, right? Hearing these success stories. And for me, it's, some of that may be jobs, right? It may be people getting into the industry. It may be reps that are working together to get into an account. It may be an executive leader or manager who found that like great rep at an event or connected with someone. And or it could just be, I love getting pictures of two reps that are like having coffee together after an event. They're like, hey, thanks for connecting us. We're now great friends and we hang out and, we've helped each other all because we met at a lobby event. And so, there's so many of them, but those are just kind of some of the examples that I get to hear and see. The content we produce, the content you produce that we share on our platform, it just creates this central place where reps can go find all these things, right? The content you're doing, connecting with other reps, the jobs, the events. And so, it creates this ethos of, just incredible opportunities and connections that are made every day.
And if I was a new rep today, what would be a message to them, your opinion or your advice for what's the first step when it comes to networking?
Yeah, I think you've got to start putting yourself out there, right? That's one challenge is taking that first step and taking that initiative. Say, all right, I'm going to start putting myself out there. I'm really going to start, if you may be in a different industry, whether it's finance or real estate, and say, hey, I'm going to transition into medical sales. This is where I'm going to go. And so it takes that first step and that belief in yourself that I'm going to make this happen. Now I've got to start building my network. I got to start asking some questions. I got to start finding out the right opportunities and where I need to be looking. And so I think the first step is just starting to really put yourself out there, and really pursuing this full time, because it's not easy, right? There's a lot of people, as you know, that want to get into this industry, and there's limited opportunities for those people. And so it's very competitive. And so starting to do your homework, right? Reading books, watching your podcast, working with a coach, these are all ways that you can really elevate yourself and learn from somebody who's been down that path before.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we really try to hit home, because I think reps, what I get, Joe, my cousin does this, or I have an aunt that does this, or my buddy's doing this and he's crushing it. He's making all this money. I want to get in too. And then they're frustrated because they're like, it's like they get punched in the gut. A month goes by and they're like, no one's getting back to me. What the heck? I'm sending my resumes out. And they don't really understand how competitive it is because, on our recruiting side, whenever we post a job, we get 300 to 500 resumes within a couple of days. It's insane. Sometimes it's a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think to your point, to have that appreciation of it, because you do have to work at it. It's not going to just come to you. You got to get it.
Yeah, it's almost like another full-time job, right? You just, especially at that stage where you're learning so much, right? We're learning about the process, learning about the companies, learning about the different roles to go after, and it's not something you can just dip your toe in, right? You got to jump in head first, really get to know the industry, know the process, and ideally working with someone like yourself or some mentor out there that knows that process and can help you through it.
Yeah. And so what would your advice be? Because we already said before, getting in front of in one of these events and going out there and just talking about yourself and just saying, I'm great because of this and that, and that's why I'd be the best at this role. How does someone stand out, with all these ambitious medical sales reps in the same room? What would be your advice to them, coming here so you could stand out ahead of everybody else?
Yeah. Do something different, right? And really, to me, prove to me and show to me that you're really taking an active approach to getting into the industry. And so that may be going to industry networking events, right? That may be shadowing a rep. I think one of the reasons I was a teacher before I got into medical sales, and it took me a long time to make that jump because I didn't have that sales experience, right? That most companies want to see. So I started networking, building my kind of community and my circle around me. But I also started shadowing a rep. On my days off, I would ride with that rep. I would go to FedEx and we'd pack up boxes. We'd restock trays. I'd go to the hospital, like, show me how you check in, show me your way around. So that when I did have that conversation, I finally got that call from recruiters that, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I started walking them down that path. They're like, man, I haven't talked to anybody that's done something like this, right? So, on your days off, you're working, trying to learn and shadowing this person. So to me, I think that helped my chances. And now when I talk to reps and, a lot of people reach out, hey, I'm trying to get to medical sales, right? And my cousin does it. Like you said, my friend does it. They're crushing it. Well, great. Well, what are you doing, right? What are you doing to stand out? And so I always tell people, do something to stand out, right? Make yourself known, to be different, and it's not just standing out, but in a way that shows that you're really actively pursuing and dedicated to getting into this industry.
And what if reps want to take a different route, like you're saying, standing out? Because when I got into the industry, I tried everything. I would talk to anyone and everyone. Again, it was 5,000 years ago. It was a different time. There was no social media. Yes, you had to go in a suit on to meet your recruiter, and the recruiter decided based on that meeting if they want to help you out or not. It was that was like your first interview was meeting the recruiter, who, if you didn't hear back from the recruiter, odds are they probably just didn't like the way you looked or presented yourself. But what about taking the other approach and going to physicians, like say starting with a family friend, a family member that could be a doctor, knocking on doors to doctors and say, hey, like, are you looking at, for an internship or something that can help them break in on a different path?
Yeah, that goes right back to like, do something to stand out, right? That stands out, especially in the interview process, right? If you can get in front of a customer, that uses that product or even doesn't use that, and you can take that information into the interview. But, going back to when I was trying to get in, I talked about building my network, and it wasn't just reps. It was anybody and everybody that touched this industry, whether it was a physician, a nurse, somebody that worked in engineering for a med tech company. It was anybody I could think of that touched this industry in some way that could, give me some information about their experience and ideally get me to someone else. And then that person could get me to someone else. It's almost like this string that you're pulling to finally get to the right person. But, going back to doing something to stand out, to me, that absolutely falls under that category. And you never know what it's going to lead to, right? Building that network, somebody at some point is going to get you to the right person, but really work in every angle you can.
And would you say, because I know I get this a lot, Joe, I'm online every day. I'm on LinkedIn every day. LinkedIn obviously is an amazing resource, but they're just contacting people, trying to get conversations with anyone and everyone. And sometimes you could fall into a trap of, okay, but are you getting anywhere? Because you could have a conversation for the next 200 lifetimes contacting someone new on LinkedIn. There's just so many people on there. How do you narrow that down a little bit to be a little bit more strategic?
Yeah. To me, I think, and I hear about, a lot of reps, especially with LinkedIn. I mean, you can copy and paste and blast 100 people a day if you want to. I think part of that's quality over quantity. It's really like building genuine connections, meeting with these people in person, getting their number, starting to get to know them. It may start with 3 that you really focus on, but that number grows to 10, that number goes to 20. But really focusing on quality over quantity. The second piece is being intentional about who you contact and why are you contacting them. And I think that goes back to, when you're at an event or you're talking to people, but really getting clear on what your target is, right? Is it a target company? Is it a target specialty, right? Is it dental, pharma, surgical, right? And really figuring out where you fit and where you want to be, and then getting intentional about those companies and those opportunities, right? So if I'm, wanting to get into surgical and I'm going to target orthopedics, all right, well, that target kind of starts to shrink down to the companies and the reps I'm going to reach out to, and I want to reach out to hiring managers or recruiters within that space as much as people that are in that space. Hey, tell me about how you got into this role. Tell me do you like it, right? And starting to do some homework on the front end. So they're like, man, these are the top 5 companies I'm looking for. This is the role I'm looking for. And so you really get, narrowed in on that opportunity and really start to network within that space. So I think it's being intentional about who you're reaching out to and why.
Yeah, that just struck a chord with me because I get reps constantly. Like one of the things that drives me crazy, and I say it to them because I don't hold back. I'll get a resume sent to me. I'm interested. And you're like, the hell are you talking about? We have 50 openings right now in all different cities, in pharma, in device, capital equipment, like that's a red flag to me right off the bat. So I can't imagine, and I remember, again, people reached out to me when I was a manager, sales leader, and they were interested. They wanted to have a conversation with me, and they didn't do the research on what industry they wanted to get into. They just say, oh, I want to get into medical sales. All right, well, what? Device, capital equipment, diagnostics, pharma. So it's so true about when you talk about intentionality, that is huge, because if you don't have that, first of all, how can I want to push for you, or how do I want to hire you as a hiring manager if you don't really even know what you're getting yourself into?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the network piece, right? You've asked good questions. You've learned like what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you want to do, because those are all very different day-to-day jobs, right? The surgical life, the capital equipment life, the pharma life, those are very different jobs. And so doing the homework on the front end, there's so much content, like you talked about, from when we were trying to get in this industry versus today. And look at the number of podcasts and books and videos and TikToks and reps out there sharing their experiences. I mean, there's so much information to go get to really start to get an idea of where you belong, so that when you do show up, you know where you're going. And I think even going deeper is why you're going there, right? So that when you talk to someone like yourself, when you finally get 10 minutes of Joe's time, it's like, hey, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and this is why I'm doing it, right? And that stands out, right, with a hiring manager or recruiter.
Well, it's so true when you're saying that, you're going to get 10 minutes with me on the phone. I think it's a great lesson for sales candidates that want to get into this industry, because we've both of us been in this industry a long time. When you're calling on a physician, sometimes in the hallway, or in a hospital or in his office where he's going to come out, might give you 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you're not prepared with that talk track, the same as if you're going to speak to a recruiter, don't take it lightly. And say, well, I just want to get my name out there. Like, no, have a purpose, like you said, because there's probably not going to be another phone call if you're wasting their time because they're too busy. Same lesson for any physician that you're calling on.
Yep. Which goes back to you better do your homework beforehand, right? So I can tell pretty quickly if somebody's wasted my time and they haven't done their homework versus somebody that's like, hey, I'm looking at these companies. I've been talking to these reps. This is what I'm really focused on, this role. I can help that person. Right, I can get them with somebody just like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into medical sales. Just want to hear your story. Like, well, tell me, what have you really done? Like, how have you prepared for this? So I think being prepared, doing the homework, like you said, whether it's, getting in front of somebody that's trying to help you get in the industry, or that customer, you better have done your homework, because you can lose credibility real quick or gain it, and they're going to help you.
And I'll do one more question just before we go to the audience.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you learned, or one of the mistakes that you made early on that you want to tell other reps, like, don't do this?
Yeah. How much time do we have? Made a lot of mistakes, right? You get in there and you try and figure it out. You learn. I thankfully had a lot of great mentors and people around me that really coached me and developed me early on in my career. I think going back to where my biggest shift happened is what we talked about earlier, is when I went from trying to sell to really trying to consult my customers and understand their needs. And that was the biggest shift for me as a person and as a sales professional, is don't just go in there, features, benefits. Hey, this is what we got, drop off a flyer, sell them on a button or whatever widget you're pushing, is really start to sit down with them and get to know them and understand what their needs are, what their struggles are, what their pain points are, and see if you can help them, right? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. It may be 6 months later you can, but really starting to build genuine connections and listening more than you talk.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I said this story before in the past, but quick story for me. I was working at Boston Scientific. I just said this is my first device job. I had a pharma role before, but I was so excited that this pain specialist wanted to see me because it was hard to get in front of these guys. And he was all gung-ho about doing spinal cord stimulation. I had 3 calls with him that it was features, benefits. I was just throwing up shit in his face, right? And then finally, the 4th call, I asked him, how many cases do you do a month? 4th call, I finally asked a question about him, and he goes, I don't even do stim. I haven't been trained on it. My boss wanted to kill me.
Yeah.
But I was just so excited, but blinded, and it was awful. But again, I made it about me, was the lesson that I learned, and not about my customer. Yeah. And I just wasted everyone's time for a month and a half.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But this is a good time. I think we'll pause so everyone could stop listening to my voice. And James, do we have any questions from the crowd for Kendy?
Yeah, we got a couple. And Joe, everybody tunes in to listen to your voice. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know.
We have from LinkedIn, Kaylee Passell. How can you step foot in a medical device sales and make these important connections needed?
Yeah. You want to take that one, Joe, or you want it?
Yeah, please. These are all for you. I'll chime in if I feel, but no, please.
Yeah, this is tough, right? This is where we're all at when you're trying to get in this industry. It's like, how do you get experience without having it? Right? It's the challenge we all face. So Kaylee, I want to empathize with you. We've all been there. I think, for me, when you ask about building those connections, that's a big part of what we do at the lobby is creating that space. And we were very intentional when you look at who's invited to our events. We could have, one way is saying, hey, you had to be in the industry and made this an industry event, but we wanted to keep that door open, right, to anybody interested in connecting or learning more about the industry. So you'll always see that on our events. So Kayla, I don't know where you're based out of, but we've got 32 chapters now across the US where we do in-person networking events. And it's an incredible opportunity for someone like yourself to get in front of reps, to get in that room and literally, get to know people, connect with people, and build your network. We also host a national sales conference in Dallas. Our next one is this November 7th. Again, a great place to connect with hundreds of reps, meet companies, and really get into this world before you're really in it. And so it's a big focus of mine is creating opportunities for you to network because it is tough to get into this space. The only other thing I would add is, once you build those connections, follow up with those people, see if you can spend some time with them, shadow them. It's something I did early in my career that really helped me, was just kind of spending time with those reps and getting to know them.
That was perfect. I agree 100%. Just to add to it, just because we give a lot of movie references here, James, so I got to hit you.
I'm ready for this
Kendy.
one. Let's go.
I got to hit you with one. This is a Karate Kid reference.
Okay, good choice. Good. It's better than Pitch Perfect.
Off to a good start. This is the original 1984 Karate Kid.
It's a good one.
Miyagi says to Daniel, if you karate yes, you're safe. Karate no, you're safe. Karate so, you're squashed like grape, right? So meaning that if you want this, guys, it's okay not to want it. Don't get into this industry. But if you want this, don't go in half-assed, because you're going to get frustrated, even with to what Kenny was saying earlier with, you got to work at it. So all these things, no matter what you do, networking, owning your development, getting better, you got to put the work in, you got to put the effort in because your competition is. So if you go in half-assed, you're not going to like this, that you're going to get disappointed, you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to say, why the hell did I do this? So either make the full commitment one way or the other to do it or not.
Yeah.
How was that, James?
That was a great
Great reference.
You missed his Devil Wears Prada and Pitch Perfect chick flick references.
Great
So
movie,
I'm always going to give him a hard time. How can network benefit you even when you're not looking for a new job?
Please.
Yeah. So it could be strategic partnerships, right? One of the things we love to see is synergy coming out of our networks is, hey, I'm not looking for a job. You're not looking for a job, but we get to talking, learn a bit about your space and your products. And it turns out we call on the same customer. You also call on Dr. Jones. I sell him a total knee and you sell him bracing, right? Great. What other customers do you call on? Well, I call on Dr. Smith. I've been trying to get in front of Dr. Smith for years and I can't get in front of Dr. Smith. Every time I go by his office, they kick me out. Susie's who you need to talk to. That's their surgery center administrator. That's who's the gatekeeper, and that's who can get you a meeting with Dr. Smith, right? So it could be business, right? It doesn't have to be jobs, and we tell people that all the time. If you show up looking for a job, you're late to the game. You should be building your network before you're looking for a job. And ultimately, you never have to look for a job if you're always building your network. Those opportunities come to you, and you get to decide whether you want to pursue them or not. So I think that's the wrong approach. If you're networking for a job, those things you should be doing on the front end and building your community around you, not just when you need a job.
Yeah, and it's a great point because I think a lot of reps, especially that have been in this industry too for a long time, one of the biggest challenges that we face, and Kendy, you can give your 2 cents. Access in this business is insanely difficult. So it's not about getting, I get a lot of young reps that say, Joe, I'd be good at this because I have thick skin. It's like, no one cares about your thick skin. Everyone has thick skin that wants to get into this. It's about what do you do when no one sees you? So if someone tells me no, that's a good thing. But if someone's not even going to see me, that's a problem. So to your point, now you're networking with people that I can't get in front of Dr. Smith. Well, I got a great relationship with them. You almost have like the old school barter system. We're like, well, hey, listen, if you could help me get into here, you share information. They could say, hey, Joe, but I can't get into Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, that's one of my top offices. Here, I'll introduce you. I'll walk in. I'll introduce you to Kristen or whoever is the office manager. So that's such a good point because I don't think people realize that. And like you said, too, going in for a job, that's the wrong approach. Yeah. Because even as a recruiter, they'll contact me. I might not have a job today, but if I like you, I see that you present really well, I'm going to put you into my applicant tracking system. Something comes up 3 months later or a week later, I'm going to think of you, and then that opportunity could come. So don't just think if I don't get a job, it's a failure. No, it's about meeting more people, getting your name out there because you never know.
Yeah. I would just add on to that. I have people reach out to me in kind of panic mode, right? They've been laid off, the company got acquired, whatever it may be. And they're like, hey, when's your next networking event in this city? I'm like, that's the wrong approach, right? And showing up desperate, thinking you're going to get a job at a networking event is the wrong approach, right? I think being proactive and building that community ahead of time is definitely the right approach. And, you also never know when your company's going to be bought or sold, right? I mean, those things could be happening. And I've been a part of 3 acquisitions throughout my career. And if you're not on the proactive side of that and kind of, putting yourself in a good space, you never know, when a competitor is all of a sudden going to be a business partner of yours. And so, building a relationships and a network with those people could pay off in the long runs as well.
100%.
We got Kaylee is back. Also, if you have the medical background but lack the sales aspect, what can you do to improve that area?
Joe does a lot of recruiting, so I'd be interested to hear his thoughts. But my first take on this is I'm assuming Kaylee has a medical background but no sales experience, and so I think you want to look for winnable opportunities, right? If you're going to try and transition the industry, kind of the path of least resistance. So, you're probably not going to end up in a sales role right out of the gate if you don't have sales experience. You're probably going to end up in a sales support role. That could be an associate sales rep position. That could be a clinical specialist position. There's companies that have what's called an on-site specialist role. So some of these roles where you're supporting the sales team, but not actually the one doing the selling. And there's a sales rep in that territory that kind of leading the team. They're great ways to get into the industry. They don't necessarily expect you to have that sales experience, especially if you're a nurse or a PT, something like that. That clinical specialist role is perfect for someone with a clinical background without sales experience.
Yeah, well, 100% agree. And to add to that, and Kaylee, this is what we do at the RepPath Academy. And then this, again, there's no secrets here. I'm here to help get more candidates into the academy. This is what we do. So we help place candidates that don't have sales experience because we help you with your transferable skills. We'll help you, obviously, with your resume, your interview prep, all the things that you may be lacking in, it is just as important to help you get these roles. So we do this with candidates every day that come from different industries that are bartenders, waiters, teachers, lawyers, finance people that want to get in. So that's one of the first steps for me. And it's not because this is what we offer. It's just the truth, because it helps you realize, as a part of our community, to see other individuals that are doing it that came from different backgrounds, and you learn from them too. So that's definitely an option. So it's, again, we'll talk about that at the end of the call, but you could feel free to reach out and we can give you more information. But this is a lot of the things that we do at the Academy.
How often are the lobby events held, and are they open to everyone or members only?
Yeah, great question. They're open to everyone. Our marketing material always say anyone in the healthcare sales industry or those looking to learn more about the industry, right? So it's an open platform right now. We don't have membership dues. It's free to attend. We're in, I think, like I said, 32 cities. You can see them all on our website, thelobbynetwork.com. We try and host them quarterly in each of those cities. They are run by volunteer sales reps in those cities. So sometimes they may miss a quarter because of life things or work, whatever it may be. But the goal is to do at least 3 or 4 a year in each city that we're in.
Just a quick question, Kenny. What's the closest one to Miami Beach?
So Florida, we have Tampa, Orlando, and West Palm.
Okay, so West Palm.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. It's good to know.
We got Amber Clark. What if you have a little medical background but have sales experience? So opposite of what Kaylee is asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people, and again, I'll refer to Joe and who does a lot of recruiting, but I think most people have one side or the other. Occasionally you find somebody with both, but either you have somebody who comes from a strong sales background looking to get transfer their sales skills into medical sales, or somebody coming from a clinical background that's looking at medical sales. So I mean, that's what they want. They want sales experience, right? These ASR roles, the associate sales rep roles, they're looking for someone with sales experience. So don't worry about the medical side as much. What they want are those transferable skills like Joe was talking about. So you're in a great position.
James, what was her name again? I'm sorry.
Amber Clark.
Amber. Yeah. So Amber, that's a great question. And the answer is, just to give you an example, they will take most companies. And again, I get in trouble for giving generalities, but this is me being real. If you have one candidate that went to county college and was a communications major and then spent a year in B2B sales versus someone that went to Harvard that was a biology major but doesn't have any sales experience, that person with the B2B sales experience is going to get more opportunities, because that's what they really want. You could come from many different you could have a clinical background. Again, This could be non-sales related and still break into this industry. But sales is always going to be king. So you'll see a lot of the job postings that they'll say sourcing targets, and they mention the same B2B companies: ADP, Paychex, Cintas, Enterprise. The reason why they're mentioning them is, of course, they're reputable companies, but they love their sales training. So they know that if you go there, you're going to know how to sell. They don't want to teach you how to sell in medical sales. They want to teach you how to sell their product. But if you don't know the basics, that person that has that basic sales information is going to be a step up against the individual that doesn't. So if you have that sales experience, you're already in the right, you already took the first right step.
We have Emily. Now 6 months in the industry, what's the best way to elevate skills outside of the company resources?
I mean, I don't want to plug too much of our own stuff here, but Emily,
that's what you're here for, man.
Emily, when I read that, we're looking at names for our conference, and Elevate is the leading contender right now as we look at what kind of brand we want to put around our sales conference. And to your, I just want to commend you on being in that mindset, right? Stay in that mindset. I was there as a rep myself, and I was looking for the same things, a decade into being a sales rep. I still wanted to elevate. I still want to get better. What new resources are out there? What new technologies? What are other reps doing? And so one of the reasons I left sales was to build a national conference for sales reps for that exact same reason right there. And so what we've done is put together a one-day conference. It's November 7th in Dallas this year. And it's a full day of networking, sales training, panel discussions, top reps, executive leaderships, med scouts giving access to their platform, which gives reps data. We're going to have sales trainers there, training reps. You're going to be able to network with other reps. We're going to have a vendor room with companies, new technologies and platforms that are out there for reps. So literally everything I was looking for, and have curated that into a one-day event, is going to be in Dallas this November. So that's one of the biggest things I'd say that I would offer as a chance to be there.
Yeah, and that's awesome, Kendy. The other thing I would just add, Emily, I mean, again, I'm not here to plug too, but that this is what we do at RepPath. We help you elevate your skills. Our slogan is own your own. Okay, so no matter what that is, own your own path, own your own development. Don't wait for and I agree with Kendy. I love where your head's at. You don't wait for the company to teach you to do something. You got to go out there and get it. Because you're going to see when you're looking to get promoted, that's how the reps that really own their own and go out there and, make the connections in different departments at the company, show leadership abilities by volunteering to do a lot of things. I mean, you're going to see the longer you get into this industry, there's going to be trade shows that happen on a weekend, for me, I'm a big football guy. I love watching football on the weekends. I hate it going to a trade show on a weekend, but I had to do it. I would volunteer to do the ones that nobody wanted to do, because all those things help you, get better. And you got to take that same approach to improve on your own skills. So whether it's looking at YouTube videos, whether it's speaking to high performers in the industry or key opinion leaders, do whatever it takes to get ahead. Because always assume, again, I keep talking about this. I don't want to scare anyone off with the competition in this industry, but always assume that my competition is doing this, so I have to do it too. So just keep up with that mentality and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I see that Emily can't attend the conference. And so, one of the things I did as a rep, and I think, kind of speaks to what you're saying, is find a mentor, right? It could be working with Joe and at RepPath and going through his program. Joe's got a lot of experience working with individuals. He knows this industry. But maybe finding a mentor in your territory, right? Maybe it's a non-competitive rep at another company, but somebody that's got some experience. The other thing is when you have your national sales meeting, make sure you're pulling experienced reps to the side and asking them, what are you doing differently, right? What's some advice that you have? But really finding somebody who's been down that path, especially early in your career, that can coach you and mentor you. I think it's really going to help you along.
100%. And one last piece of advice, Emily, stay out of the negative circles because they're in every company, every single company I've been into. And I've gotten myself in bad situations where, you start complaining about the company and you're like, you're right. They're doing everything wrong. Our product stinks. How come they're not spending more money here? And it's a bad place to be. Don't get involved in those negative circles. Stick with those, look at the leaderboard. Start there and go, okay, let me talk to Bob. Let me talk to Susan. These are the top reps. Start picking their brain. It's easy to see. I mean, they're leaders for a reason. So start trying to mimic what they do. Ask them what they do. It's okay. A lot of these reps are nice people. They're going to want to share their ideas and coach you. So I would start there first, but stay away from, hey, just because that guy's fun or that girl's fun to hang with. But if they're negative, you don't want to get in those negative circles because then you're going to wind up, getting in a bad place that you don't want to be. Stick with those high performers.
Yeah. I think they're easy to spot at a sales meeting because they're going to be recognized, right? They're going to be walking across stage. They're going to be getting bonuses. They're going to be getting awards, right? So they're easy to spot. Talk to them, right? And continue to learn from them until you are that person walking across stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you already said this, but what inspired you to start the lobby? Was it frustration with the traditional networking?
Yeah, it was a lack of a community, right? It was we didn't have this in our industry. We didn't have these resources. We didn't have the conference to go to. We didn't have networking events. We didn't have the industry's largest job board. We didn't have a place where I could go find, all these different podcasts and coaches and resume writers all in one place. And so, that was what I thought was missing. And I think it's in a lot of other industries. And so we're hoping to bring that model and that kind of association kind of feel to this space and provide opportunities and resources for reps.
Yeah. And that's why I love the lobby. I'm not just saying this because we're on with it, Kendy, today, because it really is when you're in this industry, in any sales role, you're on an island by yourself, and you feel that way when you're trying to break in. And the power of the community of having people that are doing the same thing, because what happens is when you're on an island, you start listening to well-intentioned but misinformed people that don't really know. Like they're not even people in the industry, but they hear this or they hear that. When you have that community, and that's what's so amazing about the lobby, you get real experiences, and you also have that common ground of people that are trying to achieve the same goals together. So it's the same mindsets working together. And I think that's one of the greatest things that I think about the lobby is that, it's going to help you become better by being surrounded by like-minded people.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We hope to be able to lift up, all of our community. What's the rising tide raises all ships, right? If we all kind of come together and help each other, I think it'd elevate the entire industry.
100%.
Is there a right way to ask for help or introductions?
Great question. I think it goes back to being genuine, right? What we were talking about earlier, that quality over quantity is, not just copy and pasting a message that you spray out to 100 people a day, but really being intentional about starting to build a relationship with that person. It could be even virtually on LinkedIn, right? Are they posting stuff? Start to comment on their post. Start to interact with them and start to slowly build a relationship before you actually ask for something, and see if there's something you can do first, right? Lead with value before you ask. See if there's something, maybe you can bring them a coffee, maybe you can bring them lunch, maybe you could help them load some boxes at FedEx, but see if there's something you can do before you ask for something.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head with just being genuine. It's okay to be vulnerable, guys, at the beginning and say, hey, listen, I don't really know what to do. I see that you're in the industry. I would love to pick your brain. Here's what I'm thinking. I mean, have some sort of a plan, where you're not just trying to get a half hour with them on the phone, just to ask them random questions about the industry. But it's okay the best thing, Kendy hit the nail on the head. Just be genuine. And that's going to get a lot of reps that they're going to understand because they've been in your shoes before. More of them are going to be willing to help you out.
Yeah. And be prepared for it, right? Just like we talked about earlier with when you show up to a customer and you go on a sales call, you better be prepared, know what products they're using, know your products, right? Same thing with that conversation. Go into it prepared. Don't waste their time. Do some research on them, their company, their products. Show that you prepare for that call and you're not just kicking tires.
Yeah, definitely.
We have. How is the lobby different from LinkedIn or other professional platforms?
Great question. We're more in person. All right. So one of the biggest thing, we do have a medical sales specific platform. We did launch our own community platform. The difference between LinkedIn, LinkedIn's got over 1 billion users now on it, right? You can look up any profession in any country in the world right now, and you can find somebody on it. The lobby is specifically focused on the healthcare sales community. So our content, our jobs, our events, our network, our community is all around healthcare sales. So if that's your people and that's your community, we're the place for you, right? If you're in fintech or if you're in real estate or you're an attorney, we really don't have much for you at the lobby. But we are a community focused on the healthcare sales industry, on virtually, so online within our platform, as well as in person with all of our events.
Yeah.
This seems to be a question that we get a lot about a lot of topics. How might AI change the way professionals connect or network in the future?
Yeah, we are 2 months away from me being able to answer that question. We are about a year into development now with a AI powered talent matching system that's, in my opinion, really going to help this industry, specifically our community as it applies to the job search and connecting. That'll start to roll out in November, December, our community. So if you're in the lobby already, you'll start to get access in probably December, and then go public in January. But we're really excited about the AI technologies and some of the ways we've been able to incorporate it into our community and what we're doing.
One thing I'll say about AI, guys, don't be afraid of it. Don't look at it as, oh, the competition's here. I know this is a little different. I'm just thinking of out loud because I get the question all the time. Everyone's afraid of AI. Like it's going to take away our jobs. It's going to take away everything. Of course, there's industries that it's really going to affect, but we don't fully know the future. We know it's coming. I get calls to consult for AI companies all the time, but embrace it. That's the best advice I can give, because the ones that embrace it and make it another tool in their bag, they're the ones that are going to really do well in the future. Don't look at it as AI's competition. It's going to, be as a negative thing. It's a positive.
Yeah, one company I would call out is RepPrep.ai. Incredible company that's integrating AI into the kind of call point system and building an incredible platform for medical sales reps. So I think there's a lot more features and ways we're going to see it incorporating. But to Joe's point, it's coming, and it's only going to help us get better at what we do.
Yeah, and it's a great point, because those are, I know those guys, a great company, but there's many others that are doing similar things, and they're looking to build these platforms. But all the platforms out there that have approached me are to assist reps. So it's exciting because a lot of the information is to help you have a better interaction, a more prepared interaction with your physician, as opposed to coming in there blind. And like me, takes you 4 calls before you find out if a guy does spinal cord stim, instead of learning that before you walk in.
Yeah.
Kendy, what are some of the most common wins people share after attending your local and national events?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing right out of the gate is building their network, right? Leaving our events with, a couple new people that they've met in their territories. That's why we have the local events, right? So that in your city, in your territory, you can start to build networks there. The other thing we see is friendships being made, right? People getting jobs, people making new friends, people finding synergy with other reps. We also always have speakers at the events. And so we always want someone there that's going to deliver value. We've had coaches come, we've had physicians come and talk about from their perspective, their advice on sales reps and how to approach physicians. We've had executive leaders, we've had recruiters, right? So there's always going to be somebody there where you're going to learn something. So you should always have a takeaway and something that's make you better at what you do. And you should always have, a stronger, bigger network leaving there as well.
What's one simple networking habit that pays off long term?
Ooh, I think being consistent with it. I
Yes.
think you've got to be consistent. It's not a one date and over, right? It's continuing to follow up. It's having coffee. It's checking in. It's calling. It's that intentionality behind it and being repetitive with it, and not just kind of something you do once a year to check a box.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Are your events primarily in person, or are they virtual, or a mix of both?
Yeah, we try to do a mix of both. We're definitely more heavy on the in-person. I think that's really where we found our kind of value in this ethos of the healthcare sales industry. You get guys like Joe doing an incredible job of bringing people together for virtual content and sharing that information. We do have a virtual platform as well. So if you go to the lobby, you can connect with our community there. So another way to connect with people in virtually. But I think you can do that on LinkedIn. You can do it on a lot of platforms. And where I think we really provide value is that in-person networking, which really takes you from behind a computer screen to really getting to know somebody and meeting them in person.
We have, I think this is the last one. Are there any networking traps that you see experienced reps fall into?
I think it's what we've been talking about. It's just that talking about yourself, right? I would just avoid, that like need to go in there and talk about yourself, whether you're looking for a job or just wanted to be curious, get to know people, leave there having learned something, learned about someone else, learned, from the speaker, whatever it may be, but show up to these things curious, and truly try to, invest time in getting to know someone and not necessarily just kind of putting your name out there and chasing whatever objective or goal you have, but getting to know people and finding ways to help others.
All right. Actually, I got one last one. How much of breaking into medical sales really comes down to who you know versus what you know?
I mean, I think there's a bit of both there, right? Certainly having the sales experience like Joe talked about, the ADP, the Centos, that proven sales experience, that's what they want, right? So if you're just applying to jobs and you're hoping your resume is going to stand out, that what you know and what you've done and be able to prove it on your resume and when you meet with those managers, that's huge. But also a big part of it is kind of finding those jobs and finding those opportunities. Sometimes those jobs never hit, public, or you never see them. So, kind of knowing about them before they happen or being able to get connected with someone that can put you in a job. So I think it's working both those angles. It may tilt slightly one way or the other. Joe, I'm, interested to hear your thoughts, but I think both of them are going to add value.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's definitely both. We actually, at the Academy, we teach our candidates, they're not allowed to just apply, send their resume out unless they're trying to network simultaneously. So you're not going to get that every time. Sometimes people are busy. They're not going to get back to you. But if you're just sending out your resume without having that networking component, because we all know, guys, at the end of the day, if you got two equal candidates, they're going to go with the person they know. That's just common sense, the way the world works. So the more that you can build your relationships, build your network, you're going to increase your chances dramatically than just shooting resumes out there. So that it takes both. It's about who you know and what you know. And that's what the best reps do that help break into this industry and get more jobs and progress.
That's all I got for you guys today.
Awesome. Well, Kendy, before we go though, if you could please let everyone know how they can contact you, the best way, if they are looking for any further information or anything else, please share that with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a couple of different ways. One, connecting with me on LinkedIn. It's Kendy Elmore, Kendy. Follow the lobby on LinkedIn, the Lobby Medical Sales Network. Or if you're looking for resources and want to get information about job opportunities, networking events, the conference, it's thelobbynetwork.com.
Perfect. And guys, if any of you are looking for, again, just a reminder, the recording of this, it's going to be on Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. Subscribe. Obviously, it's free to subscribe on YouTube. Anything else, you can message me, DM me if you're looking for coaching, you're looking to get into the Academy. And for any lobby members out there, as always, please would submit the promo code Licata when you reach out to me, Licata, and that will get you additional discounts no matter what you're looking to do. But again, Kendy, I want to thank you for today. This was a pleasure, man. And I hope we could do it again soon.
Man, likewise. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for everything you do to impact our community, from the recruiting side to the coaching side. You've impacted a lot of people in the industry and in the lobby community. So thank you for all that. And, really a pleasure to be on the show today and talk about networking.
I feel the same, man. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, guys.